Hey there, can you hear me? Hey Deb, can you hear me? Hey Myra, can you hear me?
Hey Astrid, I could hear you.
Okay, great. I hear an echo on your end. Deb, can you hear me?
Um,
I think the echo's better now.
yeah, I'll have to have Deb use my audio because we can't,
Browser is preventing access to the microphone.
because Deb's not able to use her audio, so she'll use audio on my laptop. So I'm
Okay,
going to, you're on mute anyway, right? Yeah, she is on mute already.
perfect. Well, I'm gonna let the waiting room in. We're gonna skip the seat spot intro and just hand it over to you. We've had some tech issues on our end as well, so we'll just go ahead and get started.
Okay, so we're going to share our screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be, can you just, is that under more? Let's see. We're not seeing the option to share the screen, Astrid. Oh, I see it now.
Yep. Welcome everybody. Thanks for your patience. Tons of tech issues on our end, but we'll get started in a moment here. Awesome. We see your screen whenever you're ready. Myra, you muted your computer, so I can't hear it.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I am hoping that you can see my screen as well. So my name is Deb Eldridge. I'm with National Bank of Arizona here in Phoenix, Arizona, and welcome today. Very excited to have you all join it. And we're going to be talking today about the 5 C's. So very important information and very important for you in a lot of different ways. So when we're talking about character and capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions, I think you're going to find that these are very important tools that you're going to be using in a lot of different situations. So today I would like to kind of just do briefly a little scenario about how these 5 C's may come into play in a number of ways. So I'm going to give you a scenario about Bob and Sally. Bob and Sally each need to borrow $500. And so I'm going to have to determine which of them is going to get my $500. So let me give you a scenario. Bob has been out of work for a while. He doesn't have any savings. He has no prospects for a job. And I don't know what he needs the $500 for. But also, he might be living on my couch. So prospects are not looking very good for Bob. But also, Sally, on the other hand, Sally has a job. Maybe it's short term, not real long term. But Sally's taken some steps to try to put some money together. So she's putting $20 a month into a savings account. And she's also gone to a tech school, so she's got some skills that she's trying to develop. But I still don't know what the purpose of the loan is for Sally, so I need to find that out as well. And the question I would have for you is, in those two scenarios, which of the two people would you be most likely to want to give your $500 to? Because the real question is going to be, are you going to be able to get your money back? So do you think you're more likely to get your money back from Bob, or do you think you're more likely to get your money back from Sally? So anyone want to chime in and just give us a quick, which one you would choose? And Astrid, I'm not sure if you can see or hear anyone.
Yes.
All right. I think for the most part, it looks like everybody's going to go with Sally. That would make sense because Sally's got good 5 C's. She's got possible character. She's got capacity. If she's been putting some money aside, if she's got capital, if she's got a job, so she's making some income. And so I'm hoping that she's going to be more likely to pay me back. Collateral, we're going to find out more about collateral here in a few minutes, but maybe Sally's got something of value that she could give to me as collateral if I give her my $500. It could be her car. It could be her mother's favorite vase. I mean, there's a lot of different things that collateral can be, but something of value and importance. And then also, what's she going to do with my $500? Does she need to buy food? Does she need to pay some bills? So it's going to be critical for me to understand what I'm getting into regardless. So Sally, I'm hoping is going to be the one that's going to be the best one for us to loan our money to. All right. So let's look at the next slide. Character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. If we look at character is a very important aspect, and character can, in some ways, this is going to be a little more subjective, perhaps, than some of the other categories that we're going to look at. So when I'm talking about character, I want to know, does Sally do what she says she's going to do? Does Bob do what he says he's going to do? So if he says, I'm going to pay you back in 3 months, is that going to happen? If they just say, well, I'll pay you back when I can, that's going to make me a little bit nervous as character. So again, understanding the character of the individual is going to be very subjective, and it's going to be, in some ways, it's going to be your gut reaction. Do you believe that this is going to happen or not? So keep that in mind. And much like Sally and Bob, when you apply for a loan or you go to your bank, these are the same 5 tools that we're looking at as well. So when you sit down with your banker and you start having a conversation, they're starting to assess in that conversation what they're hearing as far as if you're talking about, I've got, a savings account, I've been with my job for 2 or 3 years, I've got a very good FICO score, and FICO is one of those other important tools that I think you're going to find out about in session 2. So that character is starting to tell me, is this somebody that I want to do business with? Just like you have people, say if you've got a small business and somebody comes to you and says, I need to borrow on credit, you're going to start determining that character, that individual, are they a good risk? And that's what the bank is looking at as well. Are you a good risk? Am I a good risk? So character is very important, but keep in mind, it's not the only thing that we're going to be looking about today. So credit worthiness is the personal credit score, and it's a measure that we're going to use to determine if you can repay debt. It's going to be your credentials. It's going to be your credibility. It's your experience, your expertise, and your time in the industry. And it's also an important aspect is going to be, what's your business strategy? How are you going to plan to pay me back? So again, character is kind of subjective. So just keep that in mind as we go through the other ones. But it's also important that when you sit down with that banker, that you come prepared. So not just the character, but also a little bit more about you. So you're going to determine, do you have a vision statement? So when you come in and say, I need to borrow X amount of dollars, have a vision statement about what that money is going to be doing for you. You need to do marketing. You've got to buy product. There's a number of different things that should be in that vision statement. Also, we want to know about your competition. What's your competition like? Who is your competition? Is it an industry that you're all by yourself, or is it an industry that there are a lot of players in? So have some idea in your business strategy when you're talking with your banker, who are those other players that are going to be in the market, and how are you going to be better than them? What is it that you can do that's going to make you a better risk than the other party? And pinpoint those target markets. So you can't be all things to all people. So you've got a particular product or a particular service, and that's what you're going to be focusing on. Finding new opportunities. Maybe this money is because you want to put in a new line or a new product. So again, when you're talking about the scenario, just be thinking about all of these pieces of the puzzle that you're going to try to pull together in this discussion. Using good data. If you go into some of the market analysis, you should be able to see what the competition is doing. And there's several websites out there that you can look at. They're going to talk about your particular industry or your particular business. And so you could kind of figure out in that industry analysis, where are you? Do you fit in the top, in the middle, in the bottom? What's going to be happening if you make this change? What's it going to do to you? Is it going to increase your visibility in that market, increase you in that visibility? And plan for the year, not just for the quarter, not just for this immediate need. So if you need to borrow that money, you need to think about what's my options for paying back. And the bank's going to probably give you some very specific time frames. It could be you need to pay this back in a year. You need to pay this back in 3 months or 5 years. It depends a lot of times what it is that you're doing are going to determine what those data and timelines are going to be. And then also remain flexible. So if the market's going to change, have you identified if the market changes, what next? How are you going to adjust that if that market changes? What's your character going to be when that market changes? How are you going to adjust? So again, on character, this is credibility. This is your reputation that you're going to be trustworthy. Again, you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Your experience, it's going to be a little easier for you to go into a bank to borrow money if this is an industry that you've been involved in for quite some time, or that you maybe have been an employee of that particular industry and you're ready to start your own company. Keep in mind, it's going to be a little more difficult to jump industries and start from scratch. Not impossible, you can do it, but you've got to have a very good plan in mind and a very good analysis of how you can do that. So you just have to stay continuously alert, be educated in your market, be educated in your competition, be educated what's happening in the economy. We talk a lot right now about rates. Rates are dropping, and we're hoping to see rates drop more with the Fed as they drop rates. If they don't drop the rates, if rates go up, then what? That means you're going to have a higher rate to pay. Are you flexible enough to understand that you're going to be able to have to change your mode of operation, or you're going to have to change how you believe you're going to be working within that industry and within that competition? So flexibility is very key. And also think about attending industry type events that will let you know what's going on. Chamber of Commerce are great industries or great events that you can participate with because they have every genre of industry that you could possibly imagine. So you're having conversations with people outside your own industry, but also within your own industry. Find out as much information as you can about what's going on. So again, you've got to be very flexible. You've got to keep increasing your ability to bend and flow with the market and the analysis. And so you need to stay on top of what's happening. So let's look at the next one. If I can get my screen to change here. Capacity. Whoops. Capacity is what is your ability to repay that loan. back to our original scenarios, when I'm looking at Bob and Sally, I didn't get a real comfortable feeling that Bob had the capacity to pay me back. There was no savings, there was no job, there was not a lot of collateral. So I don't have a warm, fuzzy feeling, with capacity that Bob would have been able to pay me back. Sally, I had a much better feeling with Sally because Sally had a job. Sally was getting income. Sally had a little bit of savings. So that capacity becomes very critical. And really, it's the bottom line. When you go and ask for money, that's the bottom line for us is what's going to be your capacity to repay that debt. Just as you're looking at your vendors, if someone's coming to you to say, I need to have you give me the product on credit and I will pay you back. You're going to give me an invoice and I promise to pay you back within 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. So you've taken the time to assess some of those things already if you've gotten to this point with your vendors. What's their character? What's their capacity? And so that's important because revenue and expenses are what you're going to be dealing with constantly. And so you're also going to need to understand what's the impact on this cash flow. So if I'm a vendor, and I can't pay you back for 60 days, that's going to impact your capacity pretty much. It may cause you not to be able to meet your obligations with other people. So whether you're giving them cash and carry or you're going to invoice them, just keep in mind they can impact your capacity as well. So again, it's going to impact dramatically your revenue and your expenses when you're talking about the capacity and understanding your cash flow. This is going to be a critical piece for you. Everybody should have their income statements and their balance sheets. And I would strongly encourage you to know this information like the back of your hand because you're going to bring this information into the bank and you're going to be able to sit down with them and show them, here's what my cash flow has been, here's what my expenses have been. And we really like to see more than just a quarter, more than just a year. We would really like to see trends. So have you been in the business for a year, 2 years, 3 years? When we look at that kind of information, that gives us a good scenario or a good trend analysis. Are you showing growth from year to year? Are you increasing? Are you decreasing? Are you staying flat? So just taking a 1 year of income and balance sheets into to ask for a loan, just keep in mind, it makes it a little difficult to just do this scenario and this capacity only. That's when we may have to look at some of the other categories, the collateral and the condition. So banks really do want to lend. They really do want to make a loan for you. But again, you've got to be able to show that you can pay this money back. And how you're going to do that is going to be this income statement and this balance sheets. This is going to show you what are your net sales? How much have you made so far in this year? Maybe how much you did in last year. And are you seeing a percentage increase or a percentage decrease? Again, know this information like the back of your hand. This is critical because it's critical for you to be able to explain what your numbers mean, what your numbers represent. What's your cost of goods that have been sold? Depreciation expense. It's an interesting scenario when we talk about depreciation. In your business life, there are a couple of key people that you should have. An attorney, a CPA or bookkeeper, someone who knows and does your books, and your banker. And the fourth one is perhaps someone that is going to give you good sound advice. But what's interesting when I look at depreciation, CPAs and bankers don't look at it the same way. They're trying to not have you pay taxes because they're trying to show decreased revenue. On the other hand, the banks, we're trying to look at the revenue, so we like to see the revenue. So we're going to add back in that depreciation, amortization. So we look at it very differently, but when you go to one, just know that we may not always be on the same page with each other, but we need to be on the same page with you. So if this is showing depreciation expense has been, backed out by the CPA, the banker's going to put it back in. Operating expenses, one of probably the biggest areas that you can do the most control. So you can control what your expenses are for the most part. Do you need to buy a new computer system? Do you need to buy supplies? Do you need to buy advertising? Some of the things that you're going to have to determine when you have built that business plan that you had brought in, these are things that you're going to be talking about and thinking about in that business plan. And when is the time to control those expenses? Payroll is going to be one of your huge expenses. And so you might be doing great in your expense right now, but you've decided that it's time to take on a new individual, a new salesperson. Just remember the impact that that's going to have both in your income, because yes, you're going to increase your sales, you're going to get a lot more revenue, but don't forget to think about what it's going to do on the expense side. Now you've got another salary to pay. Now you perhaps have I'm trying to think of the word where you give them a bonus kind of thing. So these are things you have to really keep in mind. And your net operations, here's what my income was, here's what my expense was, what is my true net income bottom line? How much do you really have after you've paid everything? So critical there. And then you don't forget your taxes. That's something else that you're going to have to take out of that income and that expense report is what are your taxes going to be? So we're going to get down to the very bottom. This is the true net income after tax. This is what you really have to be able to say, I can do what I'm hoping to do in that business plan. I can afford to hire somebody. I can afford to do more marketing. So this is where your bottom line starts coming into play. And it's going to tell you more about how can you grow or can you grow? Do you need to wait a little bit longer to get your revenues up, to get your expenses down? But just keep in mind, all of this is what you need to be very, very familiar with, very, very comfortable with, and be able to explain it 100% to the banker when we're going, well, you have a 3% change. What caused that 3% change? Well, my rent went up, my insurance went up, I added a new salesperson, whatever it is. So they're not trying to trap you. They're just trying to make sure that you understand the numbers and that you understand these numbers well enough to be able to explain it. So this critical income statement and your balance sheet. Your balance sheet, it's not coming up. Sorry, we don't have a balance sheet coming up. But the balance sheet is talking about your assets and your liabilities. So that's another critical piece that you want to be adding to your information you're taking to the banker. All right, so let's look at capital. Capital is net worth. What are you actually worth? So this business is you. You're putting your heart, your soul, your money, your blood, sweat, and tears into it. So this is where you're determining what is your business really worth. So this is the owner asset that contributes to minimize financial risk. Anytime you go into a bank for a loan, they're going to want you to have skin in the game. And this is where we're going to be looking. How much skin do you have in the game? How much skin do you have in your business? So you're never going to probably be able to get 100% for what you want to borrow. You might only be able to get 10% or 20%. It's going to depend on the kind of loans that you're looking at doing. But just know they're going to want you to have some money that you're going to be putting into this venture as well. Self-funding, which is any funds that personally are invested in the business. This is kind of where you started. You put your $100,000 in to start the business. And as that business increased or decreased. Intangible assets. These are things that your goodwill, your reputation, things that really aren't, they're not visible, but they are an important part of your business. People do business with you because they like you, because they trust you. That's an intangible. That's your reputation. And the value of the business, assets versus liability. Do you have more on your balance sheet in assets versus liabilities? And so do you have something that you can offer up? When we go to collateral, collateral is what you're going to be able to bring to the table. So if I've got my receivables, or I've got vehicles, or I've got equipment, or I've got a building, there's a number of different options for collateral. And so it's a small business owner. You may not have the building yet. Maybe you want to buy that building and you're looking to purchase, and that building is going to become your collateral. What if you've got an accounts receivable? And we're going to look at 30, 60-day receivables. We don't look much at 90 days. 90 days are a red flag that you might not be getting your money back. Therefore, it's not something that we could include in this information as well. So make sure your receivables, when you're looking at them 30 and 60 days, if you're going past that, definitely think about collections. You know, who's going to do the collections for you? You as a business owner are going to wear a lot of hats. So just remember, you can't do it all, but it's a critical part. You've got to collect your money so that you can make your expenses and increase your revenue. Cash is always king, most definitely. So what's in your checking account? Banks may want to look at your bank statement. They want to know what your balance is. How much money are you running in and out of that account? And is it something that, we could potentially look at using your cash as a substitute for cash that we're going to give you? So we may take it as collateral and put a hold on it. We may put it into a CD, or we may put it into savings. So it's secure. And then we in turn give you the money as basically a swap. And then equipment, trucks, cars, your furniture, your fixtures, those kind of things. Collaterals can be many different things. It can be you and your net worth, or it can be some kind of physical. So any asset which can be used to assure the lender that there's an additional source of repayment. Loan default may result in liquidation of that collateral. We want to make sure that we're not going to repossess your building. We're not going to repossess your cars. That's not what we want to do. So really, collateral becomes a second source in this loan process. We want to really look at your income. Can you make the payments based on the revenue that's coming into your business? So we don't want to have to liquidate and sell your car or sell your building or take over, your receivables. So that's really, collateral is more a second source of those 5 C's that we're wanting to determine. If we make this loan, do we have a good 5C in the collateral? Again, we're wanting the cash is always going to be where we want to make sure you can make that loan or pay that loan back. Just like your vendors, you want to make sure that they can pay you back and that you're not going to have to go after something they've got. You're not going to take them to small claims court. You're not going to have to repossess something, lock their doors so they can't get into the building, that kind of stuff. So again, cash is always going to be king. That's always going to be first. We're going to look at that first. Collateral is going to be basically a secondary source of repayment, not something we want to have to take over and control. So just know that, yes, you can offer up collateral, but only if you can really truly show that you can make the payments with receivables and revenue. And then equipment is, you can do it by your invoices or your purchase orders. Cash, maybe you want to think about doing a discount. That's great because that entices your people to pay you more. But there's also something you have to take into consideration, that if you discount them 2%, 10%, pay me early, that's great. That's also going to reduce your revenue and change your accounting structure. So it's great to do it if you can afford to do it. I would not recommend as a small business that you start that right away. You need as much cash as you can get in. So buildings, again, you may want to be buying the building, which is great, and we can take that building as collateral. And then the receivables,
There's
again,
me.
talking about this, the 30, the 60. I have a giant J that's popped up on the window. And so conditions, what do you need the money for? Do you need to go buy something? Are you looking to increase your inventory? What is it you want the money for? That's going to be critical. And definitely we want to know that when the business is given to you, that's what that money's going to be spent for. I've been in banking a very, very long time, and sometimes I've seen that we give the borrower the money, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. So most definitely don't do that. Whatever you're asking a loan for, on why you need that additional inventory. So you need this loan to go purchase new whatever. Part of your business plan on how you're going to grow and how you're going to increase your revenue. So condition is very, very, very critical for what you're going to do with the business. So the purpose of the loan, and that's going to be in your business plan. How did you define what you needed to do with this money? And that should be definitely in that business plan that you're presenting to the banker as you're sitting down and having this discussion. Make sure you understand the potential risk. Make sure you understand the loan. So what are the terms that are going to come back? Is it, if you want to go in and you've decided that I need a loan and I need to pay it back over 36 months, and the bank may come back and say, well, it's going to be a 24-month, understand what the impact is going to be. So always ask. It's never going to hurt to ask for what you want or what you need. That gives the bank some idea of how they can work with you. So don't be afraid to ask. I would like to have a 36-month loan, or I would like to have a 60-month loan, or I'd like to have a line of credit. There's a number of different scenarios, and you're probably going to get into those in session 2 when you look at that. Lines versus loans. They're very different. They're very structured different. Their cycle different. Their payback is different. So conditions under which the loan will be made. Are they going to want to take some collateral? Are they going to want to put a hold on a savings account or a CD? So be fully aware of what the conditions and the terms are going to be and what your time frame is for having to make those payments back. And so again, understanding your industry and what you're seeing in the industry as far as if I need to buy some very large equipment, the industry may tell me that that should be a 7-year or 10-year term. The bank may come back and say, I need a 5-year term. So again, kind of know what the industry is working and how it's going on when you're looking at those conditions that you need to meet. And final is the state of the economy. You know, when 2020, when COVID hit and everything kind of went crazy, interest rates, the bottom fell out. Industry was trying to get, people to buy. It wasn't working. And then in 23, Fed took the rates up sky high. They increased the rates on loans. They increased loans not only in the banks, but in the credit cards and automobiles. So the industry and the economy are both very, very critical pieces. We're expecting the rates to go down. So we're expecting loans maybe easier to get because the rates are going to be lower. People may have been holding off wanting to borrow money, but now that they're seeing the rates go down, your payments go down. So it's an interest calculation, but just be aware, have a backup. So even though we're expecting rates to go down, economy could start tanking and start going crazy again in 25. Rates could go up. You're caught in a loan, that you were suddenly having to make more payments. So again, have a little bit of idea on flexibility that we talked about earlier. If the rates go up, what's the impact to you? Would you have to lay off that new salesperson that you just hired? Are you going to have to maybe at that point offer the 2%? I need to get more cash in, therefore I need to discount it and entice people to pay me sooner, even though maybe it's a little less. So a critical thing on condition is understanding the whole scenario. It's not just you, it's everything that's going to impact you as well. So when you're looking at your borrowing needs as part of that condition, accounts receivable is short-term financing. Save money for debt restructuring. So even though you're doing really, really well, it may not be in your best interest to just put it all out there and to spend it all. Have a little bit of a cushion because you never know what's going to happen. And purchasing fixed assets, maybe it's not a purchase. Maybe you need to look at leasing. There are some different scenarios that you can play with that may be in your best interest. Incurred unexpected expenses. Suddenly your car has broken down, the truck that makes all your service deliveries, now you've got to go get a new truck. May not have been in your original plan, but again, the flexibility of having a little bit of leeway and not spending everything may be in your best interest. So as you're building that scenario on that market plan, business plan, think about some unexpected expenses. Suddenly you got, sued. Now what? How are you going to deal with that? There's all kinds of unintended expenses that you could come up. So just have a little bit of cushion to play within that. And hopefully as you're expanding, you're going to gain some of that market share. And if that market share gets gained, that just goes, a feather in your hat, because now you can determine, who are going to be the players, that you're going to compete against. And so you can determine you're increasing your business. As you're increasing your market share, you're taking it away from somebody else. So that's how the markets work. I'll take it away from you, but more players go in the market. That means that you may be losing market share. So market shares can go up and market shares can go down. So it's a game definitely that everybody plays. All right. So I'm hoping today that in understanding what the 5 C's do, that you're going to be more comfortable walking in to sit down with a banker and to talk about what you need. But my best advice to you is be absolutely well prepared. Know what your character is going to look like. If you know what your FICO score is, and again, maybe in your session 2, this is session 1, you're going to learn a whole lot more about FICO and the other tools that the banks will look at when trying to make determinations. And so when we're looking at your character, you're telling us your story of who you are and what you do and how you do it. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you plan for the future? Have you created that capacity? You've got money that you're going to be able to put aside and use. And you've got some capital. You've invested in your business. And so you've got a little bit more net worth to play with, that makes you a stronger candidate for that loan. You've got maybe collateral. Again, it's not necessary that we would have it, and it's always going to be a secondary source. We're always going to look at cash. Cash is king, and we're going to always look at your ability to repay that debt. Not that we're going to want to take that collateral and have to sell it or do whatever with it. And then the conditions. Be very specific about what this money is going to do. So you don't want to go in and just say, well, I need to borrow $500. I need to expand my business. Great. How are you going to do that? What are you going to do with the $500? I'm going to increase my online presence. In order to do that, I'm going to have to hire a web designer. I'm going to have to hire somebody who's going to create my web design. I'm going to have to be able to put out on the web that I can take, credit cards or cash or whatever. Depends what you want, you're going to do with your website. I need to go purchase the inventory. Here's what I'm going to be able to buy. If I need to spend the money today, I can get X number of supplies. If I wait a little longer, and if I do this now, I may get a discount. So I've saved myself some money by taking advantage of that discount that they're willing to give me. But be very specific in what you want to do with the money. It's not going to work if you say, well, I think I need $500 to grow my business. You need to be more specific. We want to give you that money, but we want to make sure that we understand and you understand, what's going to happen with this money. And then we go from there. So, Astrid, I'm not sure if you can see if there's any questions out there, or if anybody wants to come off mute and but maybe we've got a few more minutes. We've got about 5 minutes for questions. So anything out there that you want to discuss, or you want to clarify, or you want to talk some more about. So Astrid, I'm not sure if you can see if there's any questions out there that we might be able to answer.
Yeah, this is Miranda filling in for Astrid. And I'd love it if there's any questions, use the raise hand feature on your Zoom control panel to go ahead and raise your hand, or you can put them in the chat and I will read them out and we'll go ahead and get those answered.
That would be great. Okay. So Miranda, I'm not seeing any questions or raised hands. Again, I hope that you learned that the 5 C's are a tool that you can use in many different scenarios. Just like we'll use it with you, you can use it great with everything else. And so I'd like to mention as well that this was session 1. We've got session 2, which will be taking place on November 21st. And we would love to have you join us for that one as well. These, I believe, are all free and easy to join and to get, a great way to get questions answered, a great way to learn more about a business, how to make that business successful. So definitely take advantage of that.
And Deb, we do have a question coming in from Courtney. Courtney says, any recommendations for companies that are newly launched and lack the historical finances such as P&L and BS?
Great question. So one of the best tools that we've got is an SBA, a Small Business Administration loan. And in session 2, you will find out more about SBA loans. But SBAs have a little more leeway sometimes with what kinds of financing they can do, particularly in certain industries, whereas banks may be a little more limited. And SBAs, a lot of times, they're only going to want a 10% down as part of your skin in the game that we talked about earlier. Whereas the banks, in a lot of cases, are going to want 20% down. So if you run the numbers, 10% and 20%, that's a pretty significant difference. They also can do longer terms. And so another good reason. And the great thing about National Bank of Arizona is we are a preferred lender for Small Business Administration. So we do a lot of SBA lending, and we spend a lot of time with our customers on making sure that getting them in the right SBA loan. There's 2 types. There's a 7A and there's a 504. Depends what you're doing, which loan type is going to be the one that we go with. But again, I would strongly encourage you, come back into session 2, find out more about that, find out more about loans, find out more about lines of credit. There's a lot of different options that can help you with that growing the business. Startups especially, you would be a great fit for the SBA loans. With the older, more mature loans, we're going to look more at your finances, really your last 3 years of finances. So depending what you are, startup, in growth or maturing, will also depend how we're going to look at how we can help you. What other questions are out there? Great questions. Thank you for that.
Great. And if there aren't any more questions, we can all say thank you so much to Deb for your time and energy and for sharing this knowledge. I find that insider knowledge is the best way to get information about how to navigate some of these processes that can often not be intuitive. So I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and wisdom with our entrepreneurs here today. We're going to continue to offer
They want to help you. So get to know your banker. Don't be afraid to go in and ask questions. they're more than happy to answer it. They don't expect you to know everything. That's what they're going to be there to help you. Talking about what have you got, for those 5 C's. So thank you so much, everyone. Look forward, hopefully, to see you in session 2, again, November 21st. We'll look forward to having you sign up. And Miranda, thank you so much for doing this for us today with SeedSpot. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, everybody, today.
Absolutely. And if you all are interested, check out SeedSpot's programs. I dropped them in the chat. We'll continue to offer free resources and opportunities like this as well. So stay in touch and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.